The Chicago White Sox were absolutely destroyed by the San Francisco Giants during the home opener on the South Side. Sox pitching issued 7 home runs, and 5 of them were given up by starter Michael Kopeck. Speaking of 5, that's how many hits the Sox had in the 12-3 loss. Some encouraging news about closer Liam Hendricks, and despite the loss, Yoan Moncada and Luis Robert managed to provide some bright spots.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, Sox fans, welcome to Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen each and every day. We're free and available on all platforms. Follow us on Twitter at Locked On Sox. Also, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Just search Locked On White Sox. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Hey, I'm your host, Nick Morawski, a lifelong diehard Chicago White Sox fan, recording this podcast just blocks from the ballpark in beautiful Bridgeport. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTB. Locked On White Sox is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Our team, Chicago White Sox, they are now 2-3 on the year. Some statements from Pedro Grifol, which I did enjoy prior to Monday's game. This was, of course, reflecting the split series in Houston. Came from a recent Athletic article by James Fegan. Grifol said, I know we left some runners on base. We were playing the world champions in a tough environment, a tough place to play, and we had chances to win all 4 games. That's what I think. Our pitching was really good. I think they only had 1 extra base hit the last couple of days. We played well. And I think we showed them we're a pretty good ball club too. This game is a tough mental game, Grifol said. Sometimes it takes 1 swing to get you back where you need to be, and we've played 4 games. I told some of these guys, just keep playing, keep having fun. We're going to settle into who we are, and I think when we settle in, we'll be all right. Grifol is definitely going to have to give some pep talks, maybe of that nature, after Monday's lopsided loss to the Giants. Wow. I hope they just completely flush that one on their day off on Tuesday. Try to get back to him just having some fun. That was you're going to have those. You're going to have those games. I did not expect it. I don't think anybody expected it. A lot of hype, a lot of excitement, at least for me as a fan, for Michael Kopeck. Home opener, of course. Haven't been back into the ballpark than that disgusting end of the season loss to the Minnesota Twins, something like 10-1, where Davis Martin was rocked. Looking forward to getting back to the ballpark, seeing what's been going on internally. You've been kind of been able to see the exterior and what they've been changing, but just wanted to get back in there. Even though it was a split against Houston, sometimes I feel like a split, you can feel like, well, we kind of lost that series. Or maybe a split, hey, I think we kind of won that series. It felt like we won that series in a weird way, just with the way this team battled. And again, some tough base running, some horrible opportunities with runners in scoring position, and obviously a shaky bullpen. But I did agree with Pedro Grifol. I thought the starting pitching was a positive. And then Monday happened. I have been to a lot of home openers, tons of White Sox games. I have never experienced such an embarrassment during a home opener before. I can't remember one. I mean, the buildup, the hype, pretty good weather. There were some sprinkles. Obviously, they moved up the game time to accommodate some better weather, so we didn't get into any Monday night storms into Tuesday. Kopeck and the White Sox looked absolutely exhausted from a tough, draining series. against the Houston Astros. That's just what it looked like. Grifol put out a solid lineup, though. I mean, he kept with the theme of consistency, but aside from a couple doubles and a solo homer by Robert, I mean, that was it. That was really, I mean, they had some chances, and perhaps being down 7-0 after the fifth was too deflating to fight back from. I'll tell you where the tone started. When AJ Brzezinski came out to throw out the first pitch, he threw a fastball to Lance Lynn, and Lance Lynn dropped it, let it pop out of his glove. I mean, that's when you knew things might not go well for the Sox on Monday. Unreal, absolutely unreal. I had an opportunity to walk around the ballpark and check out a lot of the new happenings because, look, staying in the seats when it was going bad, I just didn't want that as an option. And being the first game, I went 500 level. I went 100. I went even down to the old bullpen sports bar. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But, man, Sox pounded by the Giants 12-3. It was a clean first inning for Michael Kopeck, but things escalated quickly. I guess Kopeck hit 97 miles per hour from what I've read, but the average was 93, 94. No, I was sitting down the third base side, kind of tough to see where those pitch locations were that, San Francisco just were clobbering over the fence. So I went back, I checked out some video, and the video I saw, it did not look like he had much movement at all on his pitches. And the pitches were just being destroyed. They were middle, not competitive pitches at all. Now, if Michael Kopeck is going to be a pitcher and not a thrower, something that he's talked about this past off season, he has got to learn from this past outing, and he's got to learn fast. You cannot groove fastballs that sit low 90s at middle without mixing things up every now and then. I mean, there was no movement on his stuff. And where was the help at is what I kind of wanted to know. I mean, there was an off day on Tuesday. By the time Jake Diekman started warming up in the fifth inning, the game was out of hand in my mind. I mean, with a day off on Tuesday, I was surprised that Pedro Grifol was not quicker to use that bullpen. It was pretty clear that Kopeck just didn't have it. But he let Kopeck, just kind of wear it during the home opener in front of the home crowd. I don't think you needed to wait to the fifth to see what was really going on. But I think Grifol wanted to at least get him through the fifth, as a goal, as an objective. It was just an absolute mess. Again, clean first. Everything was great. Kopeck looked good, looked sharp, attacking the zone. And then everything fell off. There's some reasons that, we'll talk about here in a moment. Kopeck's final line, 4 2/3 innings, 8 hits, 7 earned runs, 3 walks, 5 strikeouts, and 5 home runs. He threw 91 pitches. Some history. I guess we all witnessed some history on Monday. Kopeck's 5 home runs issued in the 2023 season debut tied a record for most given up by a White Sox pitcher in a single game. Diekman was next. He had 2 innings, 2 walks, 3 strikeouts. Lambert, inning in a third, 1 hit, 1 walk. Not bad. Jose Ruiz, ouch. A third of an inning, 3 hits, 5 earned runs, a couple of walks, and 2 home runs. And I don't think anybody saw this coming. Hey, look, I'm excited to have Hanser Alberto on this team, but didn't see him coming into pitch during a home opener. He came in and gave 2/3 of an inning, 2 hits, and a home run. So that anytime you see a bottom line and you see a position player pitching, you don't even have to look at the score. You do not have to look at the number. It was lopsided, and it sure was. This was Kopeck after the game. If there was a specific positive to take away from today, the changeup is better than it ever has been. I have a 4th pitch that I'm comfortable throwing. Unfortunately, the 3 I've always been comfortable throwing got hit pretty hard. Pedro Grifol said Sox will study the video to see if Michael Kopeck might have been tipping his pitches on a day where he gave up 5 home runs, including 4 in 1 inning. Grifol said they'll leave no stone unturned in figuring out what went wrong on Monday. And that's a part of it. That's a real thing in baseball. It doesn't matter whether it's him or whoever it is. Every time somebody pitches for us, the next day we're watching video to see if anything like that is happening. That's just a part of our checklist. I saw a little bit of the post-game Kopeck interview on NBC Sports Chicago. Again, I just saw and heard clips. It sounded like what Kopeck was saying a little bit. Sounded like the pitch clock, 20 seconds with the runner on, was not enough time to gather himself. I could be wrong, and maybe I'm taking that out of context, but if I'm hearing that, it's just, obviously he was getting peppered left and right, giving up a lot against San Francisco, and he might just not have had an opportunity to catch his breath, and maybe a negative to the pitch clock. I don't know. I'll have to go back and re-listen to that Kopeck interview, but maybe he's tipping his pitches. But look, if you're throwing 93, 94 middle, you don't need to tip anybody. Like, they're major league hitters. They're going to crush you. I mean, he was not competitive. It didn't look like he had much movement at all on Monday. Some missed opportunities, but San Fran starter, hey, he had a great outing. Moncada continued to hit. Robert flexed his power and also made another highlight reel type catch. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Buying tickets to your favorite event shouldn't be stressful. Game Time is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you with killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee. You can stop stressing over the tickets and start getting hyped for the fun you'll have. Forget planning months in advance. Game Time has deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. The Game Time guarantee means you'll always get the best price. And if you find tickets in the same section and row for less, Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. It's the fastest growing ticketing app in the country for a reason. Get images of your seat before you buy so you know exactly what to expect when you arrive. Tickets are sent directly to your phone so you never have to dig through your email. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I thought we'd see a little bit more offense is maybe the understatement of the day. Only 3 runs, 5 hits, doubles by Moncada and Vaughn, and a solo home run by Luis Robert Jr., who in the last couple days has really mashed the ball. It's good to see. Sox were 1 for 7 with runners in scoring position. What new? They only struck out 5 times and drew 2 walks. DeSclafani, he was your starter for San Francisco. He was sharp. 6 innings, 3 hits, 4 strikeouts. That was it. Look, Yoan Moncada continues to be a bright spot offensively. I thought he was the guy for sure in that Houston series, going 8 for 18 and home runs, doubles. That was awesome to see. And he looks like he's having fun. It really does. Smiling in the dugout. I mean, showing some emotion. So he came up. He had a double on Monday. Robert has come around with his bat, made another dazzling catch in center field to rob a home run. It could have been worse for Michael Kopeck and better for the Giants if it wasn't for a highlight reel type catch by Robert on Monday. He is a difference maker out there in center field. I hope you've had an opportunity by now to watch some of the catches he had in Houston, especially on Sunday. The one he had late in the game, I believe it was the 9th inning, where Benintendi jumped over him as Moncada was sliding in left center to snag a baseball. That one, the amount of space that he made up in a short amount of time. Gosh, he's a difference maker with the bat. He can be. Okay, he looked lost at the beginning of the Houston series. He's come around. He's starting to flex his power. But what he can do defensively, that's why I think he absolutely is an AL MVP candidate. And boy, please, hey, I can stomach right now a lopsided loss. Everybody got out of that game healthy. Look, speaking of lopsided losses, I do not like off days after a blowout loss. I don't know about you. I'd love to see the Sox get right back at it, wash away the bad taste. But I think maybe it's for the best. And with the weather forecast on Tuesday, they might not even be able to get a baseball game in. Dylan Cease is going to be your guy on Wednesday as the Sox continue things with the San Francisco Giants. How will his follow-up be from the masterpiece from opening day? I mean, tough to think he can do any better, and sometimes that's just not the case. I mean, Steve Stone has talked about it in telecasts, and I used to hear this from pitching coaches in high school and in college. It's very rare when you've got your A stuff. You're more likely you've got like C+, B-, and that might even be good. And you just have to battle. You absolutely have to get creative. You're trusting your catcher, hopefully, in the scouting reports that have been done. But C's had his A++ stuff on opening day. I mean, he looked just absolutely unhittable. What Hawk Harrelson used to say, Nintendo type stuff. So how will he follow up? How will he look? With maybe a questionable weather situation in Chicago on Wednesday. So looking forward to that. Dylan Cease giving up 1 run on 4 hits with 3 walks and 4 strikeouts in 5 innings against the San Francisco Giants in his career. A very small sample size. He was credited with the win. And that outing against the Giants was in San Francisco. That came on July 2nd last year, so pretty fresh. From MLB.com, they had a little blurb, 1 takeaway for every team from their opening series. And for, of course, the White Sox, starting pitching will keep them competitive every night. Thank goodness it was written before Monday. Will Leach, again, the gentleman predicting the White Sox to win the AL Central and win 90 games. This is what he had to say. It is not fun to look at the schedule and realize your season is starting with 4 games against the defending World Series champions on the road. But the White Sox more than held their own, splitting the series with the Astros, thanks in part to solid starts from Dylan Cease, Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, and Mike Clevenger. The bullpen certainly had some issues, but this is a rotation this team can win with. Hopefully, Michael Kopeck's start was simply an outlier. I thought he looked good in spring training. His last spring training start against the Cubs was not so good. And he talked about that, and he was not happy. He was aware of that. He just didn't brush it off of, well, that's just Arizona. He was very aware. And so I don't know if it's a tipping thing. They'll go back and take a look at it, but you can't groove 93, 94 mile per hour fastballs, middle on Major League Baseball teams. It was a very bad outing. And, I don't know where you go from here with that. If it's not tipping pitches, more competitive on your secondary stuff, living more on the corners, mixing up the eye level. Again, maybe he's got in the back of his mind, he still thinks he's pumping 98, 99 miles per hour. So sit down with Ethan Katz and hopefully figure it out. A little bit about the, home opener experience. It was pretty packed. It was definitely not a sellout. You saw a lot of splotches in the 500 level and even at the 100 level. Exterior of the ballpark looking good. Again, I talked about the south end of Lot B with all the AstroTurf and protecting old Comiskey Park home plate. You've got a Leinenkugel lounge down in right field, what used to be the bullpen sports bar. That is completely different looking in there, repainted, redesigned, and they've even got a tabletop shuffleboard game down there in the lounge, which was kind of different. Haven't seen that in any stadium before. So that's new. Went up to the High Life bar and the Blue Moon Lounge up there on the 500 level. Honestly, folks, I didn't think much of it. There's some places to sit, some tables and chairs, but unless you get there kind of early and are able to get right by the railing, the guard railing, to get a pretty nice view of the ballpark, you're stuck 5 rows deep and you really can't see much. So it's another place to maybe sit with a drink and food. There are some TVs around, but I didn't think too much of those locations. I didn't get an opportunity to talk a little bit about this in the previous episode, but since, we've got home White Sox baseball happening on the south side of Chicago, I wanted to highlight a couple places in case you get to the ballpark early. Maybe you just want to park, wander the neighborhood, or maybe you want to go ahead of time, eat, and then park and attend the game. I mean, places like Riccobenni's, which is a staple. Kathy D's is a great sandwich shop, not too far. Phil's, of course, I talked about Phil's Pizza. 35th Street Red Hots, everybody knows that. Turtles and Cork and Carry. You got Shinnick's, which is a little bit further away. No food there. Wings and Rings on Halstead, of course. Greek Prime, not too bad. Ballpark Pub. I like Antique Taco a lot down 35th Street, west of the ballpark. Jackalope Coffee and Stockyard Coffee are somewhat nearby. Both have breakfast sandwiches. They're open early, especially on those weekend days. And then you've got Maria's Bar, which has been a well-known watering hole for some time. So a few spots. There's so many others. And when I stumble upon a new one, I'll try to let you know. But they're out there. You have to look for them a little bit. They're not lined up like they are on the north side. They're out there, speckled in the neighborhood, but some good stuff. Encouraging news about closer Liam Hendricks and more from Michael Kopeck on his miserable Monday outing. More on that in a moment. Today's episode is brought to you by Ultimate Baseball GM. Hey, really excited about our new partner and sponsor of today's episode, the mobile game Ultimate Baseball GM. Ever dreamed of becoming an MLB GM and managing your professional baseball franchise? Your dream can come true. This game is definitely for you. Manage every strategic aspect of your team. Play through the season and lead your team to glory. Hiring the right coaches and staff, scouting and drafting players, navigating your franchise through free agency and all the ups and downs of a season. All this in a challenging and realistic game world. Ultimate Baseball GM is completely free and playable offline. Play on the go as you want and when you want to. Now is your chance to prove that you can be more competent than Rick Hahn. No guarantee that you'll have as much job security as him, but it will be fun to have a seat at the table over and over again. Hopefully you set the market and be proactive instead of reactive. Locked On White Sox listeners get 100% free boost to their franchise when using the promo Locked On in the game store. So make sure to check it out. Download the game. Just visit probaseballgm.com. Scan the code or look it up in the app stores. That's probaseballgm.com. Ultimate Baseball GM. Start your dynasty today. Liam Hendricks provided a little video presentation before the first pitch, which was really great. Sox pitcher Liam Hendricks entering the final round of chemotherapy to treat his non-Hodgkin lymphoma. He said Monday in a social media video. Here is what you need to know. Hendricks is not currently playing with the White Sox, but the team didn't put him on the 60-day injured list to start the 2023 season. I'm starting my last round of chemo today, so I'll see you guys on the south side soon. Hendricks said in the video he did not provide a timeline for his return, but still, that is pretty awesome stuff. More from Michael Kopeck on his Monday outing. It's tough to take a hit like that, especially the home opener, one that feels pretty important to the fans, but we're going to put it behind us and keep working. For the most part, the team is in a good spot. Guys have been swinging it well with the exception of today. The starters were going well. The bullpen has been great. I don't think anybody is too put off by this except for me, and I'll get over it. Yeah, not necessarily that it was the opener, but this was a tough way to start the season, Kopeck said. With the way the team started in Houston, the fans look at that and have some excitement. on a personal level, for this to be my first start, it's a tough one to swallow. So, I mean, how do the White Sox respond to a very lopsided loss? You've got a day off to recover. Can the Sox get back on track quickly? Maybe just focusing on flushing this, away, as Grifol said. But really, one of Pedro Grifol's first big tests, first lopsided loss of the season. How does he rally everybody? What does he say to them? Maybe it's not much at all. Exciting to have Dylan Cease back on the hill when they get back in action on Wednesday. Hey, thanks so much for making this podcast part of your daily routine. You can find the Locked On White Sox podcast absolutely everywhere you find your podcast. We're on Twitter at Locked On Sox. You can find me on Twitter at Nick_GGTV. Hey, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen. Hey, for your second listen, check out the Locked On Fantasy Baseball podcast. Win your league by listening to Matt and Dom every day as they bring you the best fantasy draft strategies. Find Locked On Fantasy Baseball wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hey, on the next episode, I'll take a look at just how the season has fared so far as a team and individually. And then as the Sox get back to action with the Giants on the South Side on Wednesday. Hey, really appreciate you making time for the Locked On White Sox podcast. I'm Nick Morawski. Until next time, go Sox.